Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable Mr. Kin Ya-King, President of Foreign Affairs University. Honorable Ms. Sun Ji-Shing, Vice President of Foreign Affairs University. Ambassador Yao Jing, Distinguished Ambassador of China to Afghanistan, and a good friend of Afghanistan. Distinguished ministers, distinguished members of faculty and administration of Foreign Affairs University, dear students, university fellows, Assalamu alaikum, ni hao, and a good morning to all of you. President Kin Ya-King earlier modestly said that if I mispronounced the names, forgive me, but you pronounced it excellent.
Thank you.
All the names. And it's an honor for me to be in this university, which was established a few years before I was born. And thank you for your support and cooperation and training of Afghan diplomats and students, 200 of them. And as I learned earlier, that one Afghan diplomat or student is under training today as well in this institution of excellence. I learned a little bit more about this university when you yourself briefed me about it, and the fact that excellence is your goal and you have achieved it. I congratulate yourself and members of this university for this achievement. At the same time, the Afghan diplomats who have been trained and returned back to their country are serving in different capacities, and so are many diplomats from around the world. Most of the students represent young, vibrant, and engaged, educated China. And optimist aside, the future is yours. You will shoulder big responsibilities on behalf of your country and your nation, and you will take China one step further forward. Afghanistan's official diplomatic relations between Afghanistan and People's Republic of China was established in 1955, but between both nations in both countries, the relations were established centuries ago, many centuries ago. And bonds of relations which connected both nations in both countries go throughout the history. I am happy to be here with you as citizens of an ancient land with a modern outlook, with rich historic and cultural foundation, unique civilizational achievements in many fields, and nowadays considered as an economic powerhouse that is the envy of many emerging markets. More importantly, I'm delighted to be here as a neighbor, as a friend. Afghanistan, as you know, with China, we share about 70 kilometers of border in the high Pamir mountain range at the Himalayan foothills. These mountains and other routes may seem daunting and impenetrable, but they have connected our people throughout history, allowing for commercial goods, cultural richness, and knowledge to flow back and forth between East and West, North and South. Our part of Asia, like many other parts, has always played not only an important role in economic connectivity, but also a central role in geopolitical sphere. It was through several centuries ago when European powers first established colonial outposts in the region. But even today, this part still continues to be of great strategic value in multipolar world we see emerging. What has changed more profoundly, however, are the roles and motivations of various state and non-state actors to compete for economic, ideological, and at times geopolitical advantage. Gone are the days of conquest and enforced annexations, or so we hope. But other new threats have emerged since the demise of the bipolar world. Terrorism and the use of violence and radicalism as instruments of policy by state and non-state actors is a prime example of the disarray that we sometimes experience in different parts of the world today. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to especially emphasize the role of enhanced cooperation between Afghanistan and China, as well as cooperation at the regional level involving our two countries, because without concerted efforts by us, it would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to defeat the forces of violence and instability and realize the huge potentials this region offers for growth and development. We believe it's time for China and Afghanistan to further strengthen and expand our bilateral strategic partnership for the benefit of win-win solutions to the myriad challenges that we face and for translating the vast potential in various sectors between us. Afghanistan has suffered from imposed war and violence for almost 4 decades now. The people of Afghanistan have forged a strong national consensus and resolve to put an end to this situation. Instead, we want to revive Afghanistan back to its rightful historic place in the heart of Asia region as a land bridge, a roundabout, and a hub for a free flow of ideas, peoples, goods, and energy, connecting East with West, North with South, just as we did in the era of the ancient Silk Road. We took an important step in this direction today during my visit. As you know, for the past 25 years, my country, Afghanistan, has not been immune from the threats posed by radicals and terrorists. After the Soviets were forced by the Afghans to end their military occupation in 1989, regional rivalries and the use of extremists, some of whom later headed well-known international terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda, even ISIS, turned my country into the hub for training ground for terrorist activities, especially when the Taliban were in the control of large part of the country. The first suicide attack in Afghanistan took life of our national hero and resistance leader, Ahmad Shah Massoud, and just 2 days before the attacks of September 11, 2001 on the US by Al-Qaeda. Afghanistan was, by most accounts, the first victim of radicalized terrorism, and it still remains a major target as cross-border sanctuaries, which provide shelter, aid and training, and indoctrination to such groups. This is why we are seeking earnest and pragmatic assistance of all countries in the region so that we can take collective action against any and all outfits or groups that are using violence against our people or any other nation in our region. As we pursue the hell-bent enemies of Afghanistan and China that have chosen the path of violence and terrorism, we will continue to keep our doors open in Afghanistan to those elements of the Afghan armed opposition, both inside and outside the country, that are prepared to join their government in process of political negotiations in order to find solutions to any differences between us. In this context, as the Chinese government is witness as a member of the Quadrilateral Coordination Group recently established between China, the United States, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, we are using all political tools and positive incentives to kickstart a peace process. But when some quarters fail to abide by established guidelines, we need to reevaluate the situation and take new measures that would increase, not decrease, the chances of either defeating terror groups or convincing them that a political outcome is the only option available. But if the aim is to create new spheres of influence, to undermine sovereignty and independence of nations, and prevent us from giving our people a better life and economic prospects, then we need to step up to the plate and collectively take necessary actions to assure security, stability, and progress. We believe that we need to put anti-terrorism and security cooperation at the top of our cooperation and agenda. This is because, as we see in several corners of the world today, especially in the Middle East, with ISIS and other terrorist outfits, and in my country, with the Taliban and a host of foreign terrorist outfits allied to them, our societies are threatened, as well as our economies, our political stability, and the international order overall. China has been dealing with such elements in recent years in its western provinces and is well aware of the consequences. That concept applies to us as well. We also know that without any support system, financing, arms, munitions, and safe havens, terrorists cannot easily flourish or find a foothold. In Afghanistan, for the past decade, the Afghan people demonstrated and proved their desire for and commitment to constitutional system as established in 2004 and are not willing to go back to the old and oppressive order experienced before 2001. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, there is an organic link between security, stability, and prosperity. Afghanistan has lacked all three for over 3 decades. We are very grateful to the international community, including our Chinese friends, for standing by Afghanistan during difficult times. We thank China for playing a critical role not only in the peace and security fronts, but also with Afghan reconstruction and rebuilding efforts. We look forward to a much greater engagement by your country in terms of investment in various fields, infrastructure included, as we open up our rich and diverse mineral, agribusiness sectors and our location as transit passage to more investment in connectivity in the years to come. We are eager to invite your entrepreneurial and trade sectors to do more as we together develop the One Belt, One Road initiative. which is a reminder to Afghans of the ancient Silk Road that connected us centuries ago. I am very happy to report to you that during this visit, we will sign the Afghan-China One Belt, One Road Memorandum of Understanding for greater economic cooperation, which will be warmly welcomed by the Afghan people. We are already partners in the realization of road and rail connectivity between China, Central Asia, Iran, and beyond. These connectors will each result in more trade, transit, investment, ultimately prosperity for our people. The successful realization of the One Belt, One Road initiative between Afghanistan and China will transform this region. We already have some key projects in this regard underway, such as China, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Iran, five-nation railway, which was agreed among our 5 countries in December 2014. This important railway line will connect China and Iran and the rest of West Asia with each other for the first time since the days of the ancient Silk Road through Afghanistan. We are also envisioning railway connections between north and south of Afghanistan that will link Central Asia with South Asia. There are also more potential projects for fiber optic cable, energy pipeline, power transmission line, and road transport projects that will seamlessly fit into the One Belt Road initiative. As we implement connectivity in infrastructure elements of the One Belt, One Road, we are very keen to increase and enhance our people-to-people ties in exchange in all areas, including between political parties, think tanks, youth groups, cultural associations, etc. These exchanges will undoubtedly further strengthen the solid foundation of mutual positive sentiments and feeling between our citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, as we rightfully and proudly celebrate the progress we have made, I believe we also need to acknowledge that for the full realization of transformative initiatives such as One Belt, One Road, we must urgently address the question of security and stability in our region, especially the transnational deadly menace of terrorism and extremism. As the country that has suffered more than any other at the hands of regional and global terrorists over the decades, Afghanistan stands resolutely for the elimination of this menace from the face of the earth. Just as we do on a daily basis, right now we will continue to render all necessary sacrifices against this menace, both to defend our sovereignty and security and well-being of our people against this common enemy, but also to make sure that terrorism does not pose threat to any of our neighbors, especially China. In this context, Afghanistan has done more than any other country to combat the so-called East Turkestan Islamic movement terrorist groups, which poses a threat both to China and to Afghanistan. We will continue to strengthen our cooperation in the fight against this common foe. At the end, I am often reminded of a Chinese proverb that I had heard recited by an uncle of mine years ago, who had heard it from our Afghan ambassador to China in late 1950s. That says, if you want 1 year of prosperity, grow grain. If you want 10 years of prosperity, grow trees. If you want 100 years of prosperity, grow people. Being in this center of excellence, which young trained diplomats or students are looking forward towards their future and the future of their country and their role in the future of their country. I think this proverb is well placed. And China is achieving a level of prosperity in less than 100 years. We congratulate you. This is what Afghanistan is now aiming to accomplish as we look at China as a friend and partner. May our friendship be as tall as and as strong as our shared mountain ranges. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.